Today I've picked out a few of our horses and I'm going to show you some of the ways I like to lunge and how it may benefit that particular horse. Lunging makes the horse supple on both reins and in all three gaits, so the walk, trot and the canter. It strengthens and improves the suppleness and the coordination of the horse. Your horse will eventually build up fitness and it will use its core muscles, and what will happen is it will start to relax and release its back muscles over time. Some of the problems that we encounter ridden are usually really visible on the lunge, and taking the weight of the rider away makes it easier for the horse to find its balance. Later, as the muscles develop and the horse becomes more coordinated, you can put that additional weight back on the horse. Welcome back everybody. This is Duke, our favourite star of the show, and today we put a video together for you all about lunging and some of the different equipment you can use, because there's so much equipment out there, it's really confusing. And so some of the different equipment, and then some of the different horses that we've got here and how that equipment helps that particular horse with that particular problem. So this is Bren, and I'm lunging him in the bungee, and the reason I'm lunging him in the bungee is because he particularly has a weak back and he has had some problems through his back, so it's quite a nice one for him. The bungee's quite soft and it gives a lovely sort of soft contact feel, but I've also then put a little strap round his hind quarters, which promotes him to sort of think a little bit about those hind legs, because what tends to happen is quite often when they've had back problems and things, they don't really use their hind legs, they don't really think about their hind legs. So that little bungee there is going to encourage him. It just reminds him, because it's touching him as he's walking round, it actually reminds him to bring those hind legs underneath him. Sometimes with him, like if you put him in a Pessoa, that can make him buck, so this is just a little bit less for him to worry about. So lots of transitions, and trot, and trot, and trot. Good boy. And you can see there then his eye is in line with his hip, and he's nicely stretching over his back. And you can see how that little strap round his hind quarters just encourages him to just push a little bit more. That's nice that he wants to stretch down like that, and he's keeping a nice rhythm. One of the main problems, and that's why I like to lunge him like this, is his canter was not very good at all, and it's still quite weak, so we're still really in a process of trying to make that better. So this type of lunging, we can improve the canter a little bit. You can see this way that he falls in more through the right shoulder. So on the circle this way, the circle is going to tend to be smaller because he falls in through the shoulder and the right shoulder is dominant. And on the circle to the left, he's more likely to fall out. You can see it's really hard for him to try and keep a really clear 3-beat canter, and so that's why he needs just a little bit more work like this, and also using poles as well. So he does raised poles, so that you really encourage him to lift his back and use his abs a little bit more. You can see just as he tries to come up a little bit, sort of above the bit, the bungee just is quite nice because it's elastic. It doesn't force him or suddenly block him. He can actually, there is a bit of movement there, so he's not at all restricted by having that bungee on. Ooh, good boy. Good boy. Jack, and I'm lunging Jack in some side reins today. And I just wanted to say, safety wise, you can get side reins that are leather like these, and they have this little donut in them so they stretch a little bit, and you can get nylon side reins as well. The thing I would say is that in a safety situation, if they bolted or fell over or something, with leather it will just snap, but with these nylon ones they don't really snap. So I would always suggest, if you're going out to buy side reins, that you buy the leather ones for safety reasons. So I'm just going to show you a little bit how I do some lunging with Jack. I also do use the bungee with him, but I do quite like the side reins with him because he used to particularly fall through his right shoulder quite a lot. Now with the side reins, it sort of provides those imaginary tram lines, and it just sort of supports the shoulder, so it gives that feeling like, you know, that you want in the contact, where your hand is either side of the neck, the rein is either side of the neck, and you've got that nice steady contact. So you don't want the side reins so tight that it's pulling the horse's nose behind the vertical. You want the horse to slightly be able to stretch out in front of the vertical a little bit, and to be able to stretch down as well. Now where I've got the side reins on Jack, they're a little bit lower, so that sort of encourages that long and low. You can have them higher, but by having them higher, you know, your horse needs to be more advanced really, because that's creating a much more pole highest point frame, and unless their back is actually strong enough, you don't really want to be doing that just yet. So I would say the side reins only go up higher when your horse is advanced enough to start like doing some piaffe work and things like that. So this is like a perfect sort of at too low, and then he'll be sort of leaning on them, but about there is absolutely perfect. Now Jack always keeps a fairly nice rhythm in the walk, trot and the canter, although the canter was always a bit more of a struggle for him because he's quite a big heavy horse. So we've done quite a bit of the lunging, and that's really helped his canter a lot. But you can see he just keeps a nice rhythm. And then when he just comes up a little bit, as he goes a little bit sort of distracted or comes up a bit above the bit, you can see that the side reins, they just encourage him just to soften back down again. And trot. And ooh, good boy. So you want all your horses to be really off your aids like that, off your voice aids. You can get them to, you know, trot, walk, canter. That's what the aim is, from very little. And lunging has a lot to do with your body language as well. So if your horse is a little bit excitable, then the last thing you want to be doing now is chasing him forwards and being in this part of the circle and really chasing him, because that's going to irritate him. So because you can see he's a teeny bit edgy, I keep my whip a little bit lower, I keep my hand a little bit lower, and I try to keep my body language a little bit quieter. It has an awful lot to do with it. If you get a little bit too edgy and excited yourself, then the horse is going to be even worse. And woo, good boy. Woo, woo. So I turn my shoulder in to close the circle off a little bit so that he doesn't keep going. Keep the stick down, try and keep the hand down. Then when I want to go again, I'm going to lift the hand, bring the whip back in, and then that tells him that I want to go forwards. And then back into trot. 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 Good boy. It's nice big loops, so you're not in a tangle before you even start. And stick in the other hand. Excess rope in your left hand. Lift the lunge line, engage the stick, and encourage him to step out. Now this way he's maybe a bit more likely to fall in on the circle because the right shoulder has definitely been the more dominant shoulder. So you can even do just pointing to the shoulder with the stick. See how he's gone out a little bit further there just by pointing to it? So if you feel him falling in, or you feel them falling in, you can just point to the shoulder and you can see how that encourages them to stay out. And drop. So I like to use the cavesson. I wouldn't always lunge with lunging aids. I do use lunging aids, but or any different lunging equipment is good, but this is quite a nice way of doing it because the horse has total freedom. And there's a clip that you're going to see where the horse is going through some trotting poles, and they're raised poles. And you really wouldn't want to restrict that horse in any way as it's going through those poles. And you'll see it just really freely moving through the poles, really using its hind leg and being able to stretch. So if you were to put some side reins on, then you're going to be restricting its movement, you're going to be restricting its body. So I prefer to do like pole work and raised poles in the cavesson. The other thing I like about the cavesson is once you've taught the horse a bit of groundwork, it understands about lowering its head. So they lunge then just by a little touch of a tiny touch on the lunge line. They understand that means to lower. But I also use a command as well. So you can use anything. It might be head down, or it might be down, or it might be anything you want to use. But by doing that, you then teach the horse, when you use that command, that tiny little bit of touch on the line, that it's going to bring its head down. So then you encourage it to really stretch and use its body, stretch its back. So one of the ways I really like to lunge, and I think this is probably my favourite way of lunging, is to lunge in the cavesson, because it really gives the horse a lot of freedom. They can really stretch down, like you can see Duke is stretching down now and really using his back. But what I would say is, before you get to this stage where you can really let the horse stretch down and it understands, you do need to do your bit of in-hand work first so they understand the lowering of the head. Not all horses will come out and go straight into this frame. A lot of them will kind of come out and look around, so it takes a little bit of time to get to this stage. But definitely lunging on the cavesson it just gives them a little bit of freedom, so it's a good place to start with your in hand and then start with the cavesson. So what I'd like to talk a little bit about is a little bit with lunging. You've got to think about what aids are available to you. So you've got your voice aids, you've got your kind of body language and the energy that you kind of portray to the horse. You've also obviously got your whip as well. And what you want to be thinking about when you're lunging the horse is, see here he's quite calm and quite relaxed, and so am I. So if I wanted to, have a little bit more energy from him, then if I was to sort of make myself a little bit bigger and add that little bit of energy to it, you can see just by doing that how that then encourages him to just up the energy level a little bit. So then when I want to sort of slow everything down, the whip comes down, my hand comes a little bit lower. It's almost like I sort of go, whew, and I relax. So when I relax, you can see he almost then thinks, oh, well, I'll come in then. So a lot of it has to do with your body language. And if your horse is really wound up and having an exciting time, you've really got to try and kind of master your own kind of feelings. Because if you get too excited or worried, then that's going to actually come through in your body language and actually upset the horse more. So what I want to show you is how your body language really influences the horse. And if you can sort of split the horse into two, and I'll try to sort of draw you a little circle, is one circle here, like this. And if you're in this part of the circle, he thinks we want to do leg lifts. If you're in this part of the circle, then this is going to be the part where you kind of slow the horse down. So if you close your shoulder, that's going to slow the horse down. Now, if we're in this part of the circle, which is this part here, this part is the driving part of the circle. So if we want him to go forwards, we need to be in this position. If we want to slow him down, we need to be in this position. This position here in the middle is when everything's going perfectly. They're going round in a lovely rhythm and you're not really having to do much. But if you need to influence the horse in any way because it's got a little bit too fast or it's got slowed down a little bit, these are your circles to sort of remind yourself where to be. So it's a really good place to start with the lunging. Also, when you send the horse away, you want to sort of open your shoulder. Open the shoulder, lift the hand a little bit, and then you're almost pointing to the horse to say, I want you to go out, I want you to go bigger, I want you to go away from me. When you want to bring the horse back in and you want to slow down, you want to lower the rope, lower the stick, close the shoulder, and say to the horse, that's the body language that says to the horse that I want you to come back, I want you to stop, I want you to slow down. So it's good to lunge like this because you get a true picture of where your horse is right now. So, how is it moving? How is it moving compared to how it was moving last week? Is it using itself better than it did last week, or is there a compromise somewhere in the horse's body? You can work out its natural asymmetry without attaching anything to it, whereas sometimes when you've got the aids, they can sort of prop the horse up or disguise things a little bit. So it is a really good idea to just sometimes have a little look at your horse like this without any aids on. So up the energy, come a little bit behind him. Whee! And that was too much energy, so then maybe I don't need to give him that much energy next time. Good boy. And then, good boy. And then rope up the energy. Good boy. Good boy. So then if I want to change direction, if I come into this front circle here, we can start teaching him to change the rein within the circle without actually having to go in and then send him away again. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and don't forget to leave a little comment and to like and subscribe.